Good morning and welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Thursday. It is the 6th day of Adar Aleph, the first Adar. Let's begin with tzedakah. Gedele tzedakah, mekarebes es hageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. Make sure to give tzedakah every single day. So we continue chapter 27. In this chapter, in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains how when we have temptations and desires, this shouldn't be something that should make us sad, but on the contrary, we should realize that we are humans. God gave us these types of desires, and yet we are able to overcome them. And when we do, because tremendous joy by Hashem, He brings holiness and refines us as well. The Alter Rebbe continues now and takes us to the next step. The Rebbe is telling us now that even in permissible things, things that are 100% kosher, we have also an opportunity to suppress our desires even there. And we'll explain what that means. You know, we explain many times in Chassidus what it says, that the purpose of creation of this world, why did God create this world, is to make this world a home for Hashem, which means Hashem wants us to elevate ourselves and to find in everything in this world the godliness of it. In our mundane activities should also be noticeable and felt godliness. And for us to be in this world, Hashem created this world with the klippas, the evil, the other side, the impure things. So there are the category of totally negative, forbidden things. In Chassidus, it's called the three impure shells, sholosh klipis atmeyes. There is also the category of the impurity, which is called klippas noiga. It is a shell that is potentially can be elevated. Meaning things that are neutral. They can be used in a good way and can be used in a not good way. Ultimately, everything what we use, if we use it for our self-desires, for our own self-lusts and desires, then we are separating ourselves from Hashem. When we're doing it for our own thing, for our own desires, we lower ourselves to the lowest klippa. So what Hashem wants from us is we should be able to find a way in everything what we do, what we eat, what we speak, what we think. We should find a way how to do it for the purpose of God. And for that reason, the Alter Rebbe says, there is also the custom of our sages in the past, in the time of the Talmud, when they would eat their meal. When they would back then they would eat two meals a day. But the sages, they would delay their meal 2 hours. What was the purpose of delaying the meal? They would be busy doing good things all day long. The meal would be delayed for 2 hours. Didn't make them study more Torah, pray more, just delaying for 2 hours. Why? The purpose was in order to subjugate their desire to go to eat. And even though they ate anyway, the same amount, they just ate it later. So that delay, when they delayed their meal for 2 hours, and in these 2 hours, they dedicated their time to connect to Hashem. So the delaying act was an act of subjugation and suppression of their desire to eat. Because when you eat, even if you eat to be healthy, there is also something involved there, something that you enjoy. So that part, the self-enjoyment, they wanted to take away and to do it only for the purpose of Hashem. So the delaying act was accomplished this subjugation of the evil inclination. Now, we have to be clear that we're not talking about a situation when it can harm your health. But in general, as we'll discuss, there's many ways we can find, whether in speech, whether in thought, and even doing meals. You don't eat just whatever you desire, you push it off a little bit. To do those things, says the Alter Rebbe, is us elevating ourselves, sanctifying ourselves, and bringing that sanctification of God throughout the world, throughout all of the worlds. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'lo yoid, elo afilu b'dvorim hamotorim legamri." Furthermore, not only by fighting his evil thoughts does one subdue the sitra achra, but even in matters that are fully permissible. Kol ma sha'odam zeiveach yitzrei afilu sha'okala u'miskaven la'akafi l'sitra achra sheb'chalal ha'smali. Every act of sacrificing one's impulse, even only for a short while, meaning if he delays partaking of even the permissible and essential with the intention of subduing the sitra achra in the left part of his heart, this achieves this end. And it brings an example. Kegoin shechofetz lechol ume'achas udasai ad le'achashoy pachos. For example, when he wants to eat but delays his meal for an hour or less. But at the same time, what he doesn't go to read the newspaper or to watch a movie. He's going to use that time to study Torah. During that time, he studies Torah. He does positive things, what Hashem wants. And he brings the example, the Talmud says, Shah Ravi Smeichel Kal Adam, Shah Shishi Smeichel Talmidei Chachamim. As the Gemara states, the fourth hour of the day is when all men eat. The sixth hour of the day is the meal time for scholars. The 4 hours a day means, from the daylight divided to 12, the fourth hour is approximately 10 o'clock. So they would delay, they would eat by approximately noon time. Because they would go hungry for 2 hours with this intention. The intention of subduing the evil, the desire to eat. And it says, although, even after the meal, they would study all day. Yet, they would push off the meal for 2 hours just to subdue the desires. And again, as we said before, this is only in case that it doesn't affect your health. If it does affect your health, you have to find other ways of subduing the evil inclinations, and some of them, the Alter Rebbe brings here the examples. So the Alter Rebbe, v'chein im boilem piv miledaber dvorim sheliboy mis'ave me'oid ledabro me'inyanei olam. Similarly, if one restrains his mouth from saying things which he greatly desires to say concerning mundane matters, and we're not talking about saying things which is forbidden, to speak Lashon Hara. We're not talking about things like that. We're talking about permissible things. You just, in the middle of a nice conversation, you want to say something nice, something witty, but you push it off. You say, you know what? I'm right now going to exercise my suppression of my desires. That's a very healthy thing. When you suppress your desires, what you're saying is, my speech, I'm going to use for godly things. And even if you do it only once a day, as we'll soon see. So even when there is nothing wrong with the words per se, yet he refrains from speaking them precisely because he feels a desire to do so. So when I feel a desire to say this, and I'm going to hold my desire, that's a wonderful exercise. And likewise, regarding the thoughts of his mind, he suppresses an urge to think about some mundane matter, and instead I think of positive things. Afilu b'me'at mize'er, diskafia sitra achel asata, even by the slightest subjugation of the sitra hachra, the other side, the evil side, here below, istalak yakora de kuchabrichu ukdushasoi le'ela harbe. The glory of God and His holiness is greatly elevated on high. Even the holiness, even when you do it just a little bit, it is elevated. The holiness of Hashem. What does it mean, the holiness of Hashem? Holy is something which is separated, holy, aloof, above. So here we're talking about something which is permissible. It is okay to do, there's no problem with that. But when you subjugate that, you subjugate your desires, and you say, I'm going to do something what Hashem wants me to do now. Even if it's a small thing, it is what you're doing here in a small way has a big, big, big effect up there. The allegory that is used is like the shade of the sun, the shadow. When you see the sun, shade of the sun moves an inch down here, how many miles does the sun move up there in order to move 1 inch over here? The little small effects that we do here should never be underestimated. The smallest thing that you invest in doing this exercise, thinking positive, doing positive. So when the thoughts that you think, the speech that you speak, and even when you eat. Some say even the fact that before we eat, what do? We say a bracha, say a blessing before we eat. The bracha itself, that itself is also a delay. You want to eat it, but you say, wait a second, stop. I have to give thanks to Hashem. So obviously that is in a small way of doing it. We say the bracha before, we say the bracha after. Every little bit of subjugation and suppression of our desires causes a tremendous cosmic effect in the worlds at large, and ultimately this is the little victories that we have here, which brings about the big victory that Hashem's light will be spread all over the world in the coming of Mashiach. This is the end of today's shir. We shall see you tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem. Have a wonderful day.